invitation to be with all of you today. I want to thank my state chairman, Sam Ray, who is here today and has done an extraordinary job in the hostile territory of New Jersey. As the New Jersey Republican state chairman, I want to thank my national committee man, Bill Palatucci, for his hard work and his remarks. And Ginny Haynes, I want to thank you also for being Bill Palatucci's partner in the National Committee. That's got to be some sign, but thank you very much. I want to thank all of you for being here today. I came here this afternoon from Washington, D.C. Yesterday, I just happened to be in New Hampshire. And so we've been traveling around to different parts of the country. Last week I was in Iowa. The week before that I was in South Carolina. And there are really exciting things happening out there for our party. And as a result, exciting things happening for our country. But we have to wait a bit. We have work to do. And I accepted the invitation today from the chairman to be here because we're continuing to defy the conventional wisdom here in the Northeast. Now, folks said that there's no place for Republicans, that we're a regional party. Well, it's interesting because I was chairman of the Republican Governors Association last year, and we had 36 races around the country, 22 defenses of Republican governors all over the country. And amazing when all the spending ended, all the speeches were done, and people actually voted. Let's look at the Northeast, where they say that our party can't win. We've got a re-elected Governor, Paul LePage, in the state of Maine. We have a new Republican governor of Massachusetts, Charlie Baker. We're standing strong in New Jersey with a re-elected governor, and because I saw a bunch of you earlier today, how about the guy who I think has really been the star of the show in the first 6 months of these new Republican governors? He's strong and he's tough and he's put up with incredibly difficult challenges, but the governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, has done an amazing job. When things in Baltimore were literally falling apart under the directionless leadership of their mayor, on the night that the unrest began in Baltimore, it was Governor Larry Hogan who stood up and activated the National Guard and sent state police from all over the region, including from New Jersey, into Baltimore. But more than that, it was the governor himself who on the first evening was standing on the streets of Baltimore to let the citizens of Baltimore and the citizens of Maryland know that he was going to make Baltimore safe again, he was going to restore order, and to prove it, he was going to stand on those street corners himself until order was restored. That's the type of strong leadership Republican governors bring all over this country. And so now, in a year in 2014, when they said that we were certainly going to lose governorships, we're defending 22 out of 36, and in 22 of those defenses, 9 of them were in states that President Obama had won twice. We went into the night with 29 Republican governors. We came out of the night with 31 Republican governors. By the way, also, with a Republican governor who is my personal gift. I spent $10 million as RGA chairman. He is my personal gift to Barack Obama. When Barack Obama goes home to Illinois after he is done, he'll be welcomed by a Republican governor, Governor Bruce Brown. And the president may not think he's happy now, but when he starts to make all that money you make when you're next president, he's going to be happy he's not paying higher taxes in the state of Illinois. Bruce Brown is going to make sure of that. But those were our triumphs of 2014. We now need to look ahead. And before we do, we need to make an assessment of where we are as a people and as a party. Think about what's happening around the world right now, everybody. 7 years ago, the President of the United States sold the American people a bill of goods. He said that America was the cause of violence in the world. And that if we just pulled back from Iraq and we pulled back from Afghanistan and we gave nice speeches and told everybody we liked them around the world, that the world would then be a safer place. and America would be more respected. In fact, just last week on CNN, I heard the president say, I heard it come out of his mouth, he said, the world respects America more now because of my presidency. That is the final confirmation, everybody, that we needed, that the president does live in his own world. Because in the world I live in, and you live in, we know what's going on in the world. In Western Europe, the fears are as heightened as they were in the immediate aftermath of September 11th. They are fearful, and they have watched radical Islamic terrorism strike out against their people in Western Europe. You move to the Middle East, you see Iraq is in disarray and on fire. You see that Libya is in disarray and on fire. You see that Syria is in disarray and on fire. Egypt is under martial law. Jordan is sustaining its third wave of wartime refugees, people fleeing Syria with no natural resources to be able to support these people as they come into Jordan. And you see this president willingly permitting Iran, the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, to get a nuclear weapon and get sanctions lifted from them that will give them, just in the beginning, $50 billion. The only people celebrating that are the mullahs in Iran and the leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah, because that's where that money's going to go, everybody. You know it, and I know it. Then you look to Europe again, and after 70 years of American blood and treasure being spilled to have a free and united Europe, for the first time in 70 years, we have Russian troops marching into Eastern Europe. Putin has annexed Crimea, and he has invaded Ukraine. And I'm still waiting, as I'm sure Mitt Romney is, for the apology note from Barack Obama. For when he said in their debate, when Governor Romney said Russia was the real threat to America going forward, you remember the president flippantly, as a wise guy, said, Governor Romney, the 70s are calling, they want their foreign policy back. Well, let you tell you something, Mr. President. What we want back is a strong leader in the White House that can help to lead America, lead the world. Don't forget about China, everybody, because while we're being distracted in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, China is taking advantage of that distraction, building artificial islands in international waters. And this president is saying to our military, don't sail our ships within 12 miles of those new islands that, by the way, have landing strips on them. I don't think they're for the new resort hotel we'll be building there. We know what they're for. They're for military maneuvers. And they're for China trying to dominate the shipping lanes in the South China Sea. And the president does not want to cause a dispute with China. The fact is, we need to let China know that setting up those islands to try to intimidate our friends in Korea and Japan and to try to dominate the shipping lanes in the South China Sea is an unacceptable violation, and we need to make it plain and clear to our friends in China that there are certain things you cannot participate in. Yet this president is too distracted giving away nuclear weapons to Iran to focus on what's happening in China. I thought he was pivoting to China. I read about that, but that's been about as successful as the reset button Hillary Clinton hit with Russia. That's what this foreign policy is all about, this administration. But if only the dangers that are being posed to us were foreign ones, and if only those dangers were being threatened by outside actors, we might be able to contain it. But now we see what the Congress has done in the last 2 weeks. Now, of all the people who may enter this race for president in 2016, you are looking at the only one who has actually used the Patriot Act. The only one who has actually investigated and prosecuted terrorists. The only one who's been charged under oath with the absolute obligation to protect American civil liberties while protecting their life. I was appointed U.S. Attorney by George W. Bush in New Jersey on September 10th, 2001. September 10th, 2001. And that next day, my wife went to her job, as she did every day, 2 blocks from the World Trade Center. And I was on the phone with her at 9 in the morning when the second plane hit the second building, when she was told she needed to evacuate from her offices. And I didn't hear from her again for another 5.5 hours. It's the longest 5.5 hours of my life. As I was sitting there watching my then 8-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter and 1-year-old son, and wondering what I was going to possibly say to them if Mom didn't come home. She came home. We're blessed. But one of our good friends in our parish, in our town, didn't come home. His family, he was in the World Trade Center that night. And the father of our oldest son's best friend was killed in the Trade Center that day as well. And I've now went to those funerals, and I've watched this young man and his siblings go through the last 13 years without a father. I saw him on his father's birthday this year do what he's done ever since he's been on Facebook. Post his father's picture on his Facebook page and say, "I'll never forget you, Dad." You see, for some of these people on Capitol Hill, this is an academic discussion. This is theoretical. It's almost hypothetical to them. Not to me. I sat there when the President of the United States told his U.S. attorneys, never again. Do what you need to do to make sure you catch these people before they hit us again. That was the charge that President Bush gave to us, and he said, do it within the law. And for 7 years as U.S. attorney, along with your U.S. attorney here in Philadelphia, then Pat Meehan, now your congressman, we worked together with our friends in New York to make sure that this region and our country was protected. And we used every tool the Patriot Act gave us, and we used it while respecting people's civil liberties. What the Congress has done in the last 2 weeks has made America weaker and more vulnerable, and it's been done for purely political purposes by a professor who sits on Capitol Hill and theorizes about terrorism. I fought terrorism. I put terrorists in jail. And what Senator Paul has done to this country has made us weaker and more vulnerable, and then he has the gall to cut his speeches from the Senate floor and put them on his website and raise political money off of it. It's disgraceful, and it's made our country a more dangerous place. If the Congress really wants to be concerned about making sure that civil liberties are protected as they should be, then use your oversight authority over the intelligence operations and call them to task. And if someone violates the law, get the Justice Department to prosecute them and send them to jail. But do not make America weaker to advance your political career. It's wrong.